We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet So Hail, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we're focused on Star Trek Strange New World, Season 3, Episode 1, Hegemony, Part 2. And I'm joined by my fabulous friend Marcello and Estroza. How are you, Marcello?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Great. Now that I'm here hanging out with you, it's feels
It's
like
been a
the
while.
crew. Yeah, it feels like we're in a shuttle pod or a shuttlecraft hanging out.
Yeah, yeah.
Two different shuttlecrafts because you've got yours over there and I've got mine over here. So yeah, no, but I'm really excited to talk about this. What has it been? 2 years since Strange New Worlds left us on that cliffhanger.
It's been almost 2 years. Feels like three, but it's definitely been two.
I know. But we got some really exciting news, which is that, well, bittersweet news, I would say. Strange New
Mhm.
World definitely renewed for a fifth season, but it will be the final season of the show. And they're only doing 6 episodes, which kind of bummed me out for that
Yeah,
season.
yeah, yeah. When I heard that news, I was very, very, very disappointed. But hopefully, the 6 episodes that they do are like supersized, like Game of Thrones did. Because if for those
I
guys
see
at
what you
home who
mean.
watched Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones did a couple episodes in the final season, normal length episodes, but they did the other ones, they did them like supersized. So maybe Strange New Worlds will do something like that.
Hey, you know what? That's probably what's going to happen. But I really wish some folks out there are saying, and I agree with this. I really wish they would just add one more episode so that there's a total of 47 episodes in the in the Strange New Worlds library. But it's okay. We'll leave that one episode for the future. Maybe they'll come back and do like a reunion or a Christmas special or something. I don't know. It'll be
Maybe
fun to
they'll do
see.
yeah, maybe they'll do a movie. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It's true. They certainly could. And it all depends, of course. I have a feeling though that we are going to see the end of the storyline of Captain Pike that will lead us into what we're familiar with in TOS. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe they'll even do something crazy because
So
they already mess with continuity, as it were. So who knows what's ahead.
yeah, so do you think we're gonna see him have the accident, or do you think that we're gonna in the final episode he's gonna go towards the accident?
I think we already saw the accident in Discovery, if I'm not mistaken, in that
R-
episode with the time crystals. So maybe
Right,
they
right.
won't show the accident again. I do like the idea of leading towards the accident, and then maybe an epilogue afterwards that kind of shows his fate, and maybe a little ray of hope. There's already a very strong bond between him and Spock, uh, that they've established, and you could see the loyalty that Spock has for him. We'll talk about it obviously in this episode, but there's a scene in particular where Spock shares his devotion, and kind of pledges that he would do anything to help Captain Pike. So I think that that's the kind of those little scenes kind of like add weight to Spock's decision later on in the menagerie. So I agree. I think that's I don't know what they're gonna do, but I think that's my theory is that we might not have to revisit the tragedy because we've already seen it on screen in that episode. So we'll see. And he was definitely dressed differently. I think he was a fleet admiral in those scenes or something like that, or
Yes,
he was
yes,
like
yes. He
already
was a
like
fleet
he was
admiral. I think.
or not an admiral, fleet captain. He never. I don't think
Okay.
Captain Pike never ascended to admiralcy, but
Okay.
certainly we'll see something. Well, in other Star Trek news, I guess the only thing is that after Strange New Worlds finishes, if I guess if there's no new Star Trek series announced, then Academy will be the only Star Trek we're watching. Uh, I think, but a lot of people are getting their hopes up again for a potential, look at the 25th century with Seven of Nine at the helm, and whether it's Star Trek Legacy or another name, I would be really keen to go back to those adventures and continue those. What about you? What would you like to see as a replacement series if we get one?
I would actually really like to see the series um fronted by Jay Ryan. So I would love to see a series fronted by her with her in the captain's chair. I don't like the name Star Trek Legacy, so if they called it something else, I wouldn't have any problem with that. Also, I would really love a Star Trek show based around a Star Trek medical ship and seeing them go go to different planets solving medical problems
I
within the
uh
borders of the Federation, things like that.
I would love that too. In fact, when I was a very a young person, I wrote with my friend Humbert, who I think you met. We wrote a whole treatment for Star Trek Pasteur series, and Gates McFadden is available. I'm pretty sure she
Cool.
would like to do something like that. It'd be neat to see. Maybe they would call it Starfleet Medical instead, or something like that, and do a
Mhm.
broader thing. But I would
Take
love
on.
it. I think the Pasteur is a really good ship, good looking ship, and I think she would. They've already redesigned all the ships, so they might as well. And we've never actually seen the prime timeline Pasteur, so they could design her to look however they want, really, to be honest.
Right.
So,
Right.
but I hope they keep that Daedalus look to that what is it, the
Yeah.
Olympic class? Sorry, the
Yeah.
Olympic class look.
Other than that, I would love like a rebooted Star Trek film franchise focused on Voyager.
Yeah,
That would be really cool. But
that would
but
be
you know
neat.
you Yeah, but these are things that other Star Trek fans have said before. The last thing that I would want is nobody's favorite. I would want Star Trek to take a break for like a couple years, just take a break, and
They already
then
did. We've had 2 years since. No, but go on. Sorry, I'll finish your thought.
no, no, no. So yeah, because I would like to see Star Trek take like a 3 or 5 year break and then come back with something like brand new.
For you young folks, that's nothing. But for I'm 50 minus 3, so
That's a long time.
that seems like a really long time to me, Marcel. I
That's a
don't
long time.
I don't
But
know if
but
I agree
but
with
but
you on that
but but
one.
but you do have a lot of
Plenty
Star
of
Trek to
I
watch to
do,
hold
it's
you over.
true. I guess I could just start from the very beginning and go all the
Yeah,
way back to wherever we leave off. That's true. Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So I guess let's go ahead and get started with our episode discussion for this brand spanking new episode, or return to Strange New Worlds. Would you like to do the episode summary, Marcelo?
I would not. So you're gonna have I don't
Okay, I'll do it. I can do it. I think
okay.
I can do it really quick. All right.
All right.
So last season we had this crazy finale where the colonists on that Parnassus were abducted by the Gorn, and Batel was infected by the Gorn, and they were just overwhelmed in the fight, and we left off on Captain Pike kind of freezing, not knowing what to do. Well, we get back to the fight in this episode. It starts off right where we left off, and we have a series of fantastic situations and scenes. That opener was just like so exciting. They come up with a plan to, while they can't defeat the Borg, the Gorn. I'm calling them the Borg. Sorry. While they can't defeat the Gorn in this fight, they can leave. They decide they can leave behind a beacon, or a tracker, if you will. So they use a torpedo. It was Mitchell's idea, which was pretty cool. And they warp away to regroup. And while they're regrouping, you know, um, uh, basically, they're trying to come up with a plan to go back and rescue the crew members. What they realize is that it's not going to be easy. So uh, Admiral April's kind of against it. He's like, look, we really can't, I know that there's a lot of systems under threat, but they're not Federation colonists, and we're still recovering from the Klingon War. I kind of like that they mentioned that, like the Federation stretched or whatever. And then Pike's like, yeah, I know you're right, but you know what? The message we're sending to the Gorn is that we are prey and that we're ready, that we're ready to be like conquered, basically. And so that's when uh, Bob, like
Bob.
Admiral Admiral April, gives the go ahead to to go off book on this mission, and he says, just do whatever you have to find a way to punch back. Um, in the meantime, Christine is struggling to find a way to save Battelle. Every situation she runs through the computer simulations comes up with 100% fatality. But they put Spock on the on the
On the
team
case.
there with on the case, and he starts helping her, and he comes up with some interesting ideas that lead them to deciding that the best plan is to use Una's blood to kind of stabilize her while they surgically remove the Gorn. And I like the little machine that was gonna, I guess, slice and suck out the Gorn
Yeah,
from
that
them.
was
It's like
very
so
cool.
yeah, they
Uh,
didn't have to resort to that, but that would have been a really interesting, gory, gross thing to see. It was already gross that like, have you seen the movie
the-
Gremlins, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
That it reminded me of like when they get water, like when the gremlins get water on them, and then
Oh
they
yeah,
start
yeah,
hatching little baby
yeah.
gremlins, and they have all
Mm-hmm.
those like really gross like bubbles of flesh.
Pus and stuff. No, but the no, but the actual effects on the actress who plays Patel was great because you see her lying on her back on the medical table, and you see like this white pus thing coming out of her back. It's pretty cool.
It's so true. Oops, sorry about that.
Pretty wicked.
Did I
So
cut out?
no.
Yeah, it was pretty wicked. Meanwhile, the plan to get back to I forgot to mention that they had followed the Gorn ship earlier, and they saw that it does this weird maneuver into a binary star, and then it disappears. And they're like confused at first about it, but then Pike kind of realizes, oh, maybe this is the Gorn homeworld, and that's how they transport. They kind of go through this like optical illusion through the binary stars, and that's how they remain hidden, I guess, from or they protect their space or whatever. Which I don't know exactly how that works from a like a technical standpoint, but I was like, all right, whatever, I'll go with it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And that
there's some. I'm sorry. There's some things in this episode where you're like, how does that work? But you just kind of go with it.
Yeah, exactly. So, then the next thing, so anyways, they Pike basically orders Scotty and Pelia to figure out a solution, and Scotty, is like, well, I can try to create a version of the device that I had on my shuttle that'll work for Enterprise. And he's struggling with it, and then Pelia kind of just before they're about to enter Gorn space, Pelia tricks him by saying they're they're under attack, which forces Scotty to like not get V in his head, and he just like puts together this device really quickly, and he's like, all right, it works. I love that scene. I love also the pairings that they did in this episode. Like you had the Pike Pelia stuff, you had the Christine Spock stuff. That was really cool. And all the other little groupings, which were really interesting. We'll get to that. But anyways, we also get scenes aboard the Gorn ship, and I guess uh, somehow Laan is able to kind of wake up and break herself out of this like disgusting digestion pod that like apparently the Gorn are digesting all these humans, and like they're gonna use them as like fuel, or I don't know if it's gonna turn into like gop that they eat like later on, or
Ugh.
whatever. It's so gross. Um and she breaks out. I like that she says like break out the doctor first. Like that's her first instinct. So she starts breaking out the crew. She breaks out the doctor, she breaks out Ortega's, and she breaks out Kirk, Sam.
Sam Kirk.
And Ortega's hand is like dissolved. It's crazy. She's like freaking out, and she's pretty messed up. They're all messed up. They all have like
Yeah.
scars and stuff like that from like partially being digested. So, um, but they realize there's a lot of people to rescue, so they're trying to figure out what to do. And I love that whole back and forth between the Enterprise and the Gorn ship, and like, seeing La'an take the lead, so to speak. Anyways, they figure out that uh La'an kind of remembers from when she was stuck on that Gorn breeding planet that, how the technology kind of works. And so she's able to determine, all the transport signals. They steal a ship. Gets really hurt from a Gorn that when the Gorn realize what's going on, they start to attack, and Ortega's gets really hurt in that situation. It's so gross, but La'an just blows its head off, like the Gorn's head off, to save her. They steal the ship. Ortega's has to fly it, of course, because she's the one that can. But she's also bleeding out, and it was really great how they did that sequence, like kind of a ticking time bomb, but with her blood seeping through the controls, and like it kind of gives you that same sensation.
Mhm.
But anyways, there's this like insanity going on because the Gorn come back with a huge fleet to basically attack, to go past the demarcation line and attack Federation space and others. There, we learn in the episode that the Gorn go through these cycles of extreme activity and then extreme inactivity, and it's all based on solar activity. Based solar, lots of activity there, but but uh, you know, as they're seeing this like giant armada come through the binary stars, they come up with this. Pike and the bridge crew kind of come up with this other plan. They're like, well, what if we were to somehow use the Enterprise to create the same effect that it would to get like them to hibernate. And of course, Scotty's like, "Oh, I don't even think this is possible. Might not be possible." And Pelia's like, "It might not be, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible." And so they kind of work it out. They do this like crazy maneuver where they situate themselves between the two stars and light up the Enterprise. Meanwhile, La'an and crew are trying to contact the Enterprise, and they successfully do in the midst of all the chaos. They give the transport codes. The Gorn fall for it, go back to their homeworld to hibernate, I guess. And Bob's your uncle. They win. We
Yep.
transport everyone off, and Battelle is safe. They were able to, instead of removing the critters, they came up with an idea where they were like, oh, let's satiate them instead, so that they go back to being docile, and then her body can just reabsorb them. So gross.
So gross. Oh my god, it's
Over
disgusting.
time. And then that should be okay. Everything, will be fine. I thought, just to give my kind of I think I covered everything in that summary, right? Like that's pretty
Yeah,
much how the episode went down, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh
yeah. You got it. Mhm.
I thought this was a superb opener. It was exciting. It was action packed, but there's so much great kind of character moments and exposition, and just like it felt like really, by season 3 a Star Trek show tends to find its groove. Strange New Worlds had the advantage of kind of riding off of Discovery's ups and downs, and like figuring out a formula that works. So it's been pretty well received, and I think it's been pretty good from the start. But this does feel like a whole new level for the show. I just felt like the production was really tight, and I feel like the characters and the actors like really know their roles, if you will, and have like really are really expressing things in a way that's just like so seamless, and like you really get sucked in, I guess is what I mean to say. uh I enjoyed it very much. How about you?
Yeah, I thought that this first episode was pretty solid. Like you said, the characters and the actors who play these characters really feel that they sort of like settled into their characters. I really liked the high stakes of this episode. I personally I love Captain Patel, but I think that the fate of her character was really undercut if when you saw the trailer for the season, there were several shots of Patel alive and well in the trailer. So I think that that was a mistake by the marketing department to sort of put her in the trailer to indicate to the audience that, oh no, she's gonna live. So it's like, why would you undercut that? My favorite thing about this episode was the stuff between Chapel and Spock. I'm a huge Chapel and Spock shipper. So the
Shipper.
fact that, yeah, so the fact that Chapel in a couple weeks is going to go meet this other dude really makes me
Her
upset.
fiance. He's gonna become her fiance.
Ugh,
That's the other. We know the Chapel Spock relationship is totally doomed. So I don't think
it's totally
I
toast.
don't. So I feel bad for you as a shipper.
You
Unless they
do.
change
You
continuity,
should.
you're not gonna get a
You should.
satisfaction.
But the thing is, Chapel and Kirby are not going to last too long either.
Yeah,
If continuity is to be believed.
it's no, it's
Um,
true. In fact, I guess poor Chapel.
yeah,
She's she's
she just can't
doomed,
win.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yeah, she just can't win. Oh, feel bad for
yeah.
Christine now.
And also, I loved everything on the Gorn ship with Erica, Laan, and Jacob. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was an amazing design to see all these people from the colonies in like these symbiotic sacs
Yeah.
being eaten alive.
Or
I thought
digestive, they're like little stomachs, I guess, is what they
right,
really
right,
are.
right, right, right. These
Right.
little stomachs. I do have one more complaint. Um, Erica being basically attacked by a Gorn and having this giant hole in her chest and still being able to fly the
Well,
ship.
it's her gut. It's in her gut,
Y-
so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's in her gut. That was like a little bit too much, but you know what? I'll give it a pass.
Erica's
I'm,
tough, man, like,
yeah, she is.
she goes through a lot, like, in this episode.
Yeah,
She's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like,
Mm,
imagine your hand is gone, like, part of your
yeah,
hand is
yeah.
gone.
I mean, I mean, when she gets out of the sack, she's got like this rad chemical burn, which is
Ugh.
one thing.
They all
Uh,
have it kind of, yeah, like, Sam had it too, and
right. Mhm.
little pieces of their skin, like, gone as well.
Yeah, and lastly, I love seeing Scotty on the Enterprise, and that scene when Pelia comes in and basically sort of psychs him out to thinking that the Gorn are already there, allowing him to fix the device that they need was a great decision by her. And I really like the vulnerability that Captain Pike showed in the last scene of this episode when he actually goes to see when he
Battalion
actually goes to
says,
see Patel and he starts to pray.
yeah.
And that's very unlike him because he's not a very religious person
Right, and
at all.
it's a nice tie back to Star Trek Discovery,
Yep.
the episode where they, excuse me, where they when they're on that planet that's kind of, like,
Yeah.
stuck, in a certain loop of,
In the
with
bubble.
in the bubble, if you will, yeah, so
Yeah.
that was a really neat
New Eden is the
callback to
episode.
yeah, New Eden, thank you, yeah, that was a neat
Yep.
callback to that. Where
Mhm.
we learn about Pike's father, and his past with theology and all that stuff. So yeah, it was very interesting. I liked it a lot too. That scene was very touching. It actually brought a tear to my eye. So it's just
Ah,
like it was very nice. Um, I think I guess the big thing that I thought the episode presented, you know, a lot of the there was something a new concept, attributed to the Gorn here that kind of helped me understand what they're trying to do with the Gorn and how they're trying to, like, make it connect, if you will, to the original series. Because when we first see the Gorn in the original series, he's like this slow, lumbering, you know, guy. He's not very, like, fast like these Gorn are, like, and so on and so forth. And now that they presented this idea that the Gorn, like, hibernate, I think that Gorn was emerging from hibernation, and I don't know what the heck that was, sorry. But I think that the Gorn is emerging from hibernation, the one that we see in the original series, and that's actually I'm okay with that explanation for why it acts so differently from these Gorn. You know what I mean? Like the look of the Gorn is one thing, but Star Trek, at this point, you can't really rely on Star Trek to keep aliens looking one specific way. And we've all accepted that. We've already seen like the redesign of the Klingons from the original series to the Next Generation, and then back to Discovery with another redesign. We've seen Romulans change, and we've seen like Andorians kind of have changed, not as dramatically, but you know what I mean? Like
Right.
every kind of generation of Star Trek kind of has their own look and stuff like that. So, it's okay that they don't all look just like that. The Gorn don't look like the original series Gorn. And in a way, if you go and watch in order of continuity, the original series is the latest redesign of the Gorn because we don't see them after that. We don't see them after that. So if anyone's complaining, they're like, "Oh, you changed my Gorn. You turned it into like a more of a dude or whatever." But it only leads you also to, we've already seen now in Star Trek that like certainly species are diverse now, whereas the original series and like TNG almost kind of made species look like monolithic in a sense. What we've seen in modern Star Trek, and I appreciate that as well, is that like, yeah, there's probably a Gorn that looks like that, and there's the Gorn that look like more like these like dinosaur, raptor lizard things or whatever, So it's cool.
Mm.
I'm starting to accept it, and I kind of dig the hibernation thing, like reptiles. Well, they're not just reptiles. They're whatever the Gorn are. They're just like their own thing, but they happen to look like reptiles. But I like the idea that they hibernate, and that kind of helps me understand, or like at least use this as a way to kind of like connect uh, all of it together. And I appreciated that. So I don't know if the attempt with that. I don't know if that explanation worked for you as well, but for me, it was pretty satisfactory.
I'm not an individual that needs to sort of headcanon sort of do the headcanon thing with the Gorn in my head. But the one thing that really the one thing that I understood about Strange New Worlds when I found out they were doing the Gorn, I knew from the outset that I knew from the outset that they were not going to do the Gorn with the guy in suit. I knew that Strange New Worlds was going to present us a new vision, and the best way that I went about it, to the point that it didn't bother me, is that I I said from the outset, okay, what they're going to do here is going to be vastly different from what I know, but I'm going to accept it and I'm just going to go with it. But I understand people like you and other Star Trek fans who need to have it all fit nicely in a bow. So I'm glad.
Yeah, or it
So
wouldn't be fit nicely in a bow, but just at least it's in the same
right,
sandbox, if you will. Yeah, now
right,
I feel
right,
like it's all in the same sandbox, if,
right,
in
right,
a sense. It's
right. So
still
I'm
messy. It's not a pretty bow, but
right,
I don't mind that as much. I
right.
like I really had I really struggled with it during Star Trek. The Klingons, I don't know why, like I struggled with them, but now I'm over it. So
Yeah. The now that we're kind of talking about Star Trek continuity, the Klingon stuff that really made me upset. That took me a while to get over on.
yeah,
like
I guess everyone has their
discovering.
own
Yeah.
I guess everyone has their own attachments to these various Star Trek species, and depending on your level of attachment,
Right.
you react differently. I never have had really an attachment to the Gorn, so I didn't care. I don't also have an attachment to the Klingons particularly, so I don't know why I cared so much about it. But but the Romulans and the Vulcans, they're very special to me. So I
Right.
like following those characters or those species very much.
Mhm.
So, what did you think of the solution to Batel's situation?
That was very, very unique, and I really like the way that the writers took something that they previously set up and they used that to solve and they use that story point to solve a current issue. But in the back of my head, as I was waiting for this episode for 2.5 years, I was like, "There's no way that Patel is coming out of this thing alive," because we all know. Ooh, we
Sorry.
uh, because we all know where Captain Pike is headed, and we all know who he ends up with. So we
Mm.
um with that knowledge that I already had in my head, I thought 100% that Captain Patel, it was going to be the end of the road for Captain Patel in this episode. But I am really, really happy in that the writers of this episode and the showrunners of Strange New Worlds decided to keep her alive, because I think that Captain Patel is going to be with Pike until the end of the series. I don't think I don't think they're going to break up. I think that when the series ends, we're going to still see them together.
They might also be setting us up for a protracted end to Battelle. Maybe this is not the. Maybe this
Maybe
is
this
just
is,
a momentary reprieve from
yeah,
something that's coming up ahead. Maybe like the Gorn thing is a distraction, or like it was not meant to be her end, but something else might
right,
come
right.
along. Who
That is
knows?
true.
But I don't know. I don't particularly want Captain Pike to just experience more trauma and tragedy, but it does make it does make for good television, doesn't it?
Yeah.
um yeah, you were saying earlier how you liked the pairing up between Spock and Christine because you are a
Oh
big
yeah.
fan of that relationship,
I'm
and I thought
I'm a huge fan.
it was really well done in this episode. I really like I think that like it's such an interesting period, to see Spock in this time where he still hasn't really figured out,
His
who
emotions, yeah.
yeah, like, or how he, like, Spock's unique, among Vulcans and humans, and he's kind of trying to figure out who he is and his groove, and it's very interesting. Like, it does feel like, later on, the way their relationship is in the original series, you know it's kind of, you now have this big context behind it, like, of like how they used to be and like how they are now, and I think it's kind of interesting to like see that they were able to maintain a working relationship after all after
After all
all of
this.
this.
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
so
to me that shows how professional they are and how committed they are to the
yeah,
duties that
good
they have to
point.
do within Starfleet, because no matter what your personal relationship with somebody is, if you're in a working environment, you have to rise above it and you have to do what is required of you. But with that being said, I do like that Strange New Worlds is presenting us with a different picture of Spock, and I do like the fact that we can see Spock when he's a little bit younger, when he's not so when he's not so uh this is not the
Full
right
form
word.
when he's not formed into his personality, still forming in a way.
Yes. Um but I like seeing a more emotional Spock, and I like seeing a more open Spock, if that's a thing. And I do like that this relationship, or this relationship slash friendship with Chapel, is sort of laying the groundwork to what they're going to be like in the original series.
I thought a lot about, we know the Spock Kirk dynamic so well. There's so many screen hours of that
With them, right? Yeah.
storyline, and even we get like a epilogue to their story with the recent unification film, the fan film, where they used Sam Witwer to bring Kirk back, along with this like pretty cool technology, which by now it's probably even cooler in terms of what it can do. Um, so we know that relationship really well, but I really appreciate that we're starting to see the Spock Pike relationship, which is a different dynamic. Like, one could look at Spock and Kirk as, you know, on screen basically as brothers, right? Like that's kind of how they define their own role. Cause like, at the end of Star Trek Five, Kirk kind of says, like I lost a brother once too, and was lucky to get him back. And it's obviously a reference to Spock, whereas other people, for fun, like myself, also ship them a little bit, But I guess you could say that their relationship, is romantic, but just in a platonic kind of, not romantic, but a platonic, like a deep relationship that's platonic, and it can look romantic, I guess is the right way of phrasing it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
here I see a totally different relationship. I think Spock sees Captain Pike, especially after his fallout with his father. I do think that there's like a father son relationship that seems to be present between Pike and Spock, and I like that. I think that's really cool, that that's the dynamic between them, and it really does feel that way, like the way that a son would be devoted to their father, and and so on and so forth. What do you think?
I don't view the Spock and Pike relationship like that. I view the relationship as one of deep respect and admiration for each other. But listen, but I do understand where you're coming from because uh, Captain Pike does have this very, very fatherly type of thing to him. I mean, in season one, he he cooked for the whole crew for God's sakes. He would have them over for
Right.
dinner. He would cook barbecue for them. Like
Papa
that's
Pike.
such
That's what I'm gonna
yes,
start calling him
Papa
for
Pike, right?
now. Papa
Right.
Pike.
That's such a that's such a fatherly thing to do. But but you mentioned that we are getting to see the Spock and Pike dynamic. I don't to be honest with you, I don't think we've gotten enough of it. I
Well, we have
think
2 more seasons to come,
that is
3
true.
more seasons to go. So, yeah, but I
That
think
is
we're
true.
starting to see. I think we've been seeing it, but it's getting deeper. It's getting more pronounced. Like we're going deeper into that
Right.
kind of vibe,
Right,
I
right,
think
right,
is
right,
what
right.
it
The
is.
the pairing that really that I really like when it comes to Pike, I like the pairing of Pike and Una together. I think that their bond is a lot more uh it just for some reason works better for me. And I seem to be attracted to that as a fan a little bit more than Pike and Spock because I'm so used to Kirk and Spock. So I'm like, you
But,
know,
so I'm not saying that, like, that's the relationship that I think is great. I was just mentioning it in juxtaposition to the
oh,
Kirk
okay.
Spock relationship. But that being said,
Uh,
yeah, there's always, I think one of the things Star Trek is a hallmark of Star Trek and that Star Trek does really well is that captain first officer dynamic.
right.
And I think I can't think. I think almost every of those situations has been really great. I mean, like you have Kirk and Spock, of course. Picard and Riker is a great dynamic, and that kind of like evolves into like something really interesting as we get into you know um the films, but especially in season 3 of Star Trek Picard, it was like a very cool kind of setup there.
Mhm.
And then for Deep Space Nine, it's Cisco and Kira,
Yeah.
and that works really well. And then for Voyager, you have Chakotay and Janeway, and a lot of
Janeway.
people love that that kind of dynamic, and it's a great dynamic too. And then in Enterprise, you have T'Pol and
Oh,
Archer.
sure.
So and then it continues, of course. That's one of the things that like really hooked me on Discovery was that one they did a great job of setting up this relationship between Captain Giorgio
Yeah.
and Burnham, and it kind of resonates throughout the whole series really. Like that's Burnham's whole thing is to try to rekindle. She made a big mistake like destroying that the way she left that relationship, and then it's all about trying to like redeem her
Yeah.
relationship to so there's a lot of, not all about it, but there's a lot of that in there. And then again, Jack and well, I can't remember the captain's name from Lower Decks.
Uh,
Carol Freeman, Captain
okay.
Freeman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Captain
And
Freeman.
like, so yeah, that first officer slash captain dynamic is really great, and that's a great hallmark of, I think, Star Trek. And here you definitely have that.
Yeah.
Una and Pike are fantastic.
You
Yeah,
definitely do.
good good point there. You mentioned earlier the Scotty Pelia thing. That to me is, I think, one of the highlights of the episode is their relationship, and you can see a difference how Scotty changes into how Scotty's going to transform into the Scotty we're very familiar with. Right now, he's like unsure of himself. He's really sad and upset about losing his crew. Um, and I like that Pelia comes back into his life. Like, she didn't think of him as a very like standout or remarkable student, but she knew he was capable of remarkable things. And so I think that it's cool that you see in that one scene where, you know, Captain Pike kind of comes in and he's like, can you make this thing work? And Scotty's like being realistic and like he's like, I don't think this is gonna work out. And Pelly's like, we'll have it ready for you by the time we get to go in space, which is something very Scotty would do later on, kind of assuredness that Scotty would have later on. And, they call him the miracle worker later on because he could just like, whatever he says he's going to do, he can do it. He has a lot of confidence. And so I love that, like, perhaps he's, maybe that's already a aspect of Scotty's personality, but he's being reminded of it here through Pelia and her mentorship. And I really just love the pairing of Scotty and Pelia. I think it's going to be really exciting throughout the season. I hope we get a lot of it because I don't know if Carol Kane's going to continue. It's already a surprise that we have our two engineer like these like
Yeah.
they usually like they or the rec like the way it's been going, Stranger Worlds, I was expecting them to kill off Pelia or something, just like they did with Hemmer. But I do love this relationship. I think it worked really well in this episode. The other scene when they were like, gonna create the effect to put the Gorn into hibernation, that was also another good one where they were working together, and you see Pike kind of smiling uh at their interaction, like how they're figuring it all out together, and like they're getting nerding out, so to speak. And so I hope we see a lot of that this season.
Yeah, seeing a Scotty that is less sure of himself and is still coming into his own is quite wonderful. Unlike you, I'm not a big Pelia fan. I've always found her to be kind of, I'm sorry guys, kind of annoying. So if
Scotty
so
also
if
seems to find her kind of annoying, so maybe
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
it's on
So,
purpose.
so yeah, so she does meet her untimely end at some point in the future. I'm not going to
Actually,
be
I don't know if she's gonna die or anything like that because she's this character that's like lived for a long, long life. So maybe she'll just move on. I hope,
right, right, maybe she will. But I do like the fact. Look, uh, me saying that I don't like Pelia is just a small, tiny part. But I do like the fact that she is aware of Scotty's ability to work under pressure, and she does bring that out in this episode. Like I
Ex-
said earlier,
she exploits it a little bit, but it
right?
works.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And through her teaching and through her brashness, Scotty is going to become that miracle worker that we all know and love.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Very cool stuff.
Yep. Cool stuff.
I guess we've talked extensively, I think, about every aspect of the episode. But I guess the last thing to touch on is just like, where do you think this season's going? Like, what do you think this is the conclusion of last season, but what do you think is gonna be up ahead for us based on, I guess you've seen the trailers and things like that. What are you excited for?
Where do I think that we're going? I have no clue where we're going. I'm just really really excited because Strange New Worlds seems to have this operational creedy of having a season with all sorts of like genre shifts. So I'm really excited that the story that they tell within these genre shifts that they do is cohesive because I thought that last season they kind of didn't get the ratio right. So I hope that from a writing aspect and from a fan perspective that they do get the ratio right between the sort of genre episodes that they want to do. The one genre episode that I'm really excited for is the detective episode. I think that's coming up.
Yeah, it's
Um,
gonna be in this season for sure. It's the holodeck look. It looks like they're on the
yes,
holodeck or the recreation room,
yes,
I guess it would be,
yeah,
or
yeah.
recreation room. I don't know
Um,
how
the
to
the recreation room. Like again, like I said, I'm like that's the episode that I'm looking forward to the most. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more Paul Wesley. Um, come into his own and become and get closer to becoming Captain James C. Kirk. Um,
You know,
I've
I'm mixed on that. Just to interrupt for a second, but
sure.
I kind of am on the same camp of like, let it be more of a pre-Kirk show, like focus more. But that is what they're kind of doing. I mean, sorry, Kirk just comes out like one or two episodes a season, so
Right.
it's fine. And Paul Wesley is delightful as Kirk, so I do kind of look forward to seeing him.
Yeah. Other, the other things, like, I don't know too much about Pike's history, so I think that by choosing this character, the writers of Strange, the writers and the folks behind Strange New Worlds gave themselves sort of like a blank slate to do whatever they want within within reason, because they can't do whatever they want. We all know that.
Well, they're kind of I think their approach has always been like we treat each season like it's our last season. Now that they actually
That
have a
is
last
true.
season coming up, I think they can flex a little bit
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and work their way to that ending that they probably
Mhm,
already have planned and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right.
mhm,
The Strange New Worlds definitely, I think like Strange New Worlds kind of just continuing to do what Discovery did. Is like the soul of the show is very much Star Trek. And I always say if you kind of close your eyes and listen to it as an audio drama, there's really no issues. It's always just the visuals that kind of throw people off, is like how
mhm,
they imagine some of these things. They're just like people have a hard time. People like myself kind of have a hard time sometimes connecting those visuals with the 60s visuals,
yeah.
but I think it's worth a watch. Certainly for certainly on the other side of that spectrum, there's people who can't watch older shows and or don't want to or don't feel connected to them. So I'm glad that there's a new version of that era,
For them.
presented in the same kind of spirit of optimism and adventure and like, teamwork and, uh I guess collaboration and the tenets of Star Trek that we all know and love are very much alive in this reimagined version of Star Trek. So to me, that's
Mhm.
all right then.
What would you like to see in this new season of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds? What are you looking forward to? What do you think the end game
I
of the
kind of
season is going to be?
I kind of don't have a lot of expectations. I kind of with Stranger Worlds, I just go for the ride, if that makes any sense. So I'm not sure I have any specific expectations, but I just personally after this episode
Oh,
definitely want to see more Scotty involvement and more of that, like the crew kind of getting along and stuff like that. From the trailers, I'm looking forward to the episode that looks like it's Trelane or Q,
ah,
whatever that character. Um, and just it just
Trillane.
kind of the Roger Corby stuff seems interesting to me. I'm excited to see how they connect how they connect that and like what he's gonna be like. So those are the things I think just come to mind right now.
I just saw something while you were sort of waxing poetic. I don't like Roger Corby at all, folks. I want Roger Corby to show up, have a relation tryst with have a romantic tryst with Chapel, and then do what he's gonna do. But like I want Roger Corby's story to end this season. like I'm
Well, it might if they're introducing him this season, it might end because it's a long time. I don't know. I don't remember. I have to go back and watch
look, look
what
at
are little
yeah,
girls made of.
yeah.
But I feel like it was a long time, maybe four
It
or
was
5 years
4 or
before
5 years, yeah.
since so yeah, we might find out what happens, like how he gets lost here, in this
We
episode. So
might, we might.
I mean not this episode, this season,
This
sorry.
season,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So who knows? But we definitely got a glimpse of him, so he's definitely in the season. And they announce it. Oh,
Y
sorry, there is one thing. I hope we get Cybok this season. I mean, like
Oh my god,
that is
Psylocke?
like because that was like a tease from season one
Was it? I
that
don't remember that.
remember at the end of season one, you see the back of his head at the Vulcan, where T'Pol kind of does her work. It's a Vulcan rehabilitation facility.
Oh yeah, that's
for
right. Oh my
criminals and
god.
stuff like that. And Cybok is
Cyborg.
connected to what was the name of the captain? Um, Captain
Um,
Angel. Captain
Captain
Angel,
Angel.
right? Yeah, the
Yeah.
piratey, the piratey
Party cap.
Captain Angel.
God
So
damn.
it would be cool. I have a feeling Captain Angel's gonna break Cybok out of that prison, or somehow. So yeah, I'm still holding hope to see Cybok this season.
Do
I think
you
that would be like a great big cool thing.
do you think that we're gonna see do you think that we're gonna see Bones at some point?
I heard Fathery over on Text Trek talking about that. I think was it on Text Trek? It might have been. I don't know. I
It
listen to a lot.
probably
I
the
watch a lot
it's
of
Star
stuff,
Trek stuff.
but I'm of two minds on that one. I think it's cool that we're starting to see all these original series characters, but I'm not sure
If we're
we
gonna see
need
them all.
to. I'm not sure we need to see them all. And that but certainly there's like a weird fantasy of mine that Carl Urban could just come back and
That would
play.
be
And
really cool.
he's doing TV, so why not? And he's a little older now too. So if we could
He's a little
sneak Carl
gruffer.
Urban, yeah. So if we could sneak Carl Urban into Strange New Worlds, that would be an overwhelming yes to the
That'd be
answer of
funny.
like, will we see McCoy?
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, they do a great job casting these guys, and there's no obligation to cast like someone
No.
from a different, Star Trek. But that might be
They don't have to.
yeah, they don't have to, but that might be a fun thing. But as far as the character, I could take. I mean, I'm sure I'll be delighted if they do bring him in, but if they don't, I'm not going to be upset. Uh, what about you?
I would actually really like them to bring it in. I would actually really like them to bring in Bones because I would love to see how he interacts with Jacob, Doctor Mbanga. I've really become a fan of Doctor Mbanga in Strange New Worlds as opposed to being a fan of him, as opposed to being a fan of his in the original series. In the original series, he was like in 3 episodes, I think.
Yeah, and he's kind of like it's kind of a mystery as to is he another doctor that just serves on the it kind of opens. I have to go back and watch those episodes too, but I remember it was like kind of like he was a specialist or something like that. But it's
Right.
interesting that he was visiting the ship. I'm not sure. I don't remember the details. Someone in the audience will surely remember the details and
Yes.
let us
Let us know. Yeah.
know. But yeah, it'd be interesting. Yeah, and that's the other reason is that like I really want to get a full. Yeah, I also love Dr. Mbenga, so I would love him to have not, I don't want the same, like I like where they're going with Scotty, but I don't want the same thing to happen with Bones, to
Mhm.
come in and then start replacing Dr. Mbenga here in the episode. But I have a lot of faith in the people making this show. So I'm sure if they do decide to do something, it's going to be in a way that I didn't expect, and it'll be delightful. And I think that's a overall kind of my overall sentiment about Stranger Worlds is what I love about it is that it just delights me so much. Like the little references and all the little things that you see. It's like not just the big stuff, but also the little things are very like cool and touching and interesting, and I like that.
Yeah, I will say that Strange New Worlds isn't as painful as Discovery was at some points. Because
Painful. Wow.
because because Discovery was painful good, but Strange New Worlds is just delightful.
Do you mean
Right
like
right from
how
the
Discovery kind of like challenged you, if you will? Is that what you mean, or like challenged
Did-
your tested your patience, or like your
that's
expectations, if you
that's
will?
one way to put it.
Because I remember you
That's
get
my
so mad about all the rule
Yeah, I
breaking.
would. I
It's
would.
like, why? Why are you getting mad about
I got so mad.
everyone does
I,
it?
I got
You
so
wanted to
mad.
throw everyone in the brig.
Yeah, that's right. No, but the one thing I will say about Discovery is that it Discovery is not the type of and I know that you feel differently about this, but Discovery to me is not the type of show that you just sit down and watch. You have to pay attention to it, right? And Strange New Worlds is like that Star Trek show that you can just put on and just chill. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
I
I definitely agree with that. Like Discovery's just nonstop. It's
right,
true, but I don't know if I would put it quite that way.
and
I do think you do
yeah,
have to like. I do
yeah,
think Strange New Worlds also sends you on roller
right,
coasters
yeah,
of ups and downs too, but not in the same. I get it. I get what you're
yeah,
saying. I get it.
yeah,
It's a vibe.
yeah, yeah. It's a vibe. Like, yeah. Like Strange New Worlds, you can just sort of chill. Discovery is very heavy at a lot of points. Yeah,
Yeah, I see what you mean, but I like it for that
yeah,
reason,
it works. Yeah,
and it
Discovery is
ends up
great.
working. Speaking of which, I have the Apple Vision Pro, right? So when you
Yep.
watch TV on or a video, if it's high enough resolution, it could be as big as like an IMAX. It feels like you're watching it on an IMAX screen.
Oh, cool.
And
So, have you watched
I
a lot
was
of Star Trek on that?
inspired. I do. I watch a lot of Star Trek on there, and I started watching Discovery from the beginning because I was like, you know what? I rag on season one so much, but I haven't really watched it. And now that I have some space from the initial, like, I went back and watched the first episode, the Vulcan Hello,
Yep.
but in that format, it holds up the effects and everything. It's like a very high quality on the stream on Paramount Plus there.
Awesome.
And it felt
That's
like I
cool.
was in the movie theater watching it, and it changes the way it feels. I think that's interesting because a lot of these shows are made in a cinematic way, and it doesn't necessarily like that doesn't necessarily translate to a smaller screen. I think a lot of people watch on their computers or on their iPads or just on a regular TV, but they're really designed to be on a big, big screen. So I think as technology gets better, some of these shows might have a new life because you'll see things that you didn't see the first time around. And it felt different, like the pacing and everything when I was watching it on a potentially huge screen, where it looked like a theater screen through the Vision Pro. So fun way to watch Star Trek. I know it's not like a device that everyone can have, but it maybe the Oculus has a similar experience, or one of the other VR headsets has a similar like theatrical experience, and you can try watching Discovery on there. It's really cool, or
Yeah,
any Star Trek really.
yeah. I listen. I will say that this era of Star Trek is the best that Star Trek has ever looked, and I will say that
Yeah,
Discovery, especially the Vulcan Hello, the episode that you're referencing, that first episode is amazing. I don't care what anybody says.
no, it really is. It's a
Uh,
great start
uh,
to the series.
but yeah, yeah. It's just really a shame to move to your point. It's just really a shame that a lot of people who watch this new era of Star Trek really can't get in nitty gritty with all the fantastic details unless they watch the episodes several times. Uh,
But
but
hey,
but you know,
we're that's the new way of watching TV in a lot of ways, is like rewatch and binge and things like that.
yep,
So
stuff like that. Yep,
Marcelo, this was such a fun discussion. I guess we should give this episode a rating.
sure.
Bring it back to Strange New Worlds here.
Yep,
Can't think of much that I didn't like about this episode, and I think it was just a great opener, a great resolution to the cliffhanger that we were waiting patiently to resolve. I think
true.
it
Cool.
delivered, and it was yeah, it was satisfying.
Yep.
So in Starfleet boy fashion, I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. So, what about you?
I will give it an 8 out of 10 because I really enjoyed this
It's pretty
episode.
good.
There were just a couple things that kind of held it back from getting a perfect score. But again, I really enjoyed this opener. It was so much fun to talk about it with you today.
Likewise, I look forward to talking about more episodes with you. And audience, let us know what you thought, what your rating was in the chat. These are pre-recorded, but we may be going live in maybe a few weeks. Who knows? We'll see how it works out. But I hope you enjoy these nonetheless. Please hit the like button if you liked what we talked about, and give us a comment below. Subscribe. You can follow me on X/Twitter at Starfleet Boy. Everywhere else, I'm Starfleet Sohail. And Marcello, if you'll go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, and if you guys want to follow me, you can also follow me on X/Twitter. I'm at Creek Fanatic 88. But I do want to mention, just real quick, that I have a brand new podcast. It's called Starfleet Radio, where
Oh
I talk
yeah,
about everything Star Trek. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, you can find us on youtube.com/Starfleet Radio. Where right now we're
fantastic,
right now we're talking about the original series, and we release an episode a month. So yeah,
fabulous. So I look forward to it. I'll go check it out. All
thank
right, folks, live long and prosper, and we will see you next time.